아, 예, 기자님 혹시
네.
광안리 좀 가주시겠어요?
네. 근데 how do you? I don't think we're allowed to drive it, Dan. Mate, have you seen this?
Oh my days.
So we've been explicitly warned to not basically touch it because apparently it can perish.
It's essentially an Hermes handbag.
It's a what?
Hermes is like, you know, the most expensive luxury handbag.
Radio was on.
That was a weird sound.
Static noise.
So we were able to put the radio on, but we can't turn the car on. That's
yeah,
the
it
strange...
sounds about right.
It's basically top quality handbag material.
This is amazing.
Yeah, 대박이지. You're right.
미안해. 갑자기 나왔습니다. Crap.
A little pangu, the car did a little pangu.
Shut himself. Sorry, dude.
When we were looking at the car earlier, you mentioned something about your first car.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my days.
Reminds me of my first car.
What, the Fiesta?
There's probably a little bit less rust on this one.
There's less rust on this.
Mate, I can't wait to
There's
tell you about
no rust on this
one.
one.
I cannot wait to tell you about this. It's going to be amazing.
That's amazing.
So when I was a kid, I used to love cars. Little known fact, I moved to London and I haven't literally owned a car since.
Really?
So I was 17 years old, passed my test, bish bash bosh.
Nice. First time?
First time.
I failed my theory, first time. I passed my practical first time.
Got 35 out of 35 in the theory test. I failed I got double F for science, and yet I got somehow perfect score on a theory test for driving. So my first car was a Ford Fiesta SI.
What does SI mean? Just
SI it's the sports version of it's basically a Ford Fiesta SI was the Mark 3.5 officially.
so it's the Ford Fiesta. So interesting.
Yeah. So this one over here, this is called a convertible.
I get it.
Thank you.
For all the wrong reasons, looks a bit like my first car, which was basically.
What do you mean?
I felt like it was missing pretty much everything when I got it, and it was like a convertible without needing to be a convertible. My first car was also a Ford.
Yeah.
It was a Ford K8.
Ooh.
And I bought a car before I'd actually passed my test, so I had this, £1,500, 9-year-old light blue.
£1,500.
Yeah, Ford K8. And the insurance was more expensive than the car.
Wow.
Young men are, we had you! But it's just this sense of freedom when you get a car, man.
Yeah. My first car was a lot cheaper, than half the price. It was less than, I think it was £695.
Wow.
And it was a Fiesta SI 1.6 Z-Tech. Wow. I didn't really have any driving lessons.
역시 Joel.
Yeah, classic Joel. My friend took me to a car park and taught me how to drive. He had a Peugeot 106, I think, at the time.
That is a typical British thing.
Literally.
Yeah, Tesco car park, I have a few lessons there from my mate.
It was Tesco's car park.
He doesn't know how to drive either.
It was like, okay, then put the clutch down, pop it into gear, because obviously in the UK we were manual, none of this auto business. And then lift the clutch, but he hadn't finished his sentence. And he was like, give it a bit of revs. And I lift the clutch and it's immediately stalled. Yeah. And that was my and I was like, I've broken his car.
And you lose confidence
yeah,
straight away, right?
So I used to be a bit naughty when I was a kid, believe it or not.
Used to be. 그랬었는데 지금 아니라는 거구나.
Yeah. So I do things that I would never do now. And I was a bit of a, what you call in the UK, a boy racer.
Really?
And
Were you actually?
Yeah, so I lowered my car. I had it on springs. Couldn't afford proper suspension for it, so I lowered it on springs.
Yeah.
About 35 mil. Had it on 16-inch alloys.
So that's why you said it looked like that.
Yes.
Flying machine.
Yeah. The thing was just fun. It was just a joke. I never thought I'd get a year out of it. We used to literally. Oh man, some of the stories I don't even think I can say some of them on camera. Like chases with police, some terrifying ones. I can't even explain how reckless it was.
왠지 내가 믿을 수 있을 것 같아. I shouldn't be able to 믿어, but I can 믿어. 이제 조엘이 딱 그런 느낌이 좀 되게 잘 어울렸을 것 같아. 지금은 안 그렇지만은.
I really loved the feeling of getting to know your car, and so okay, it wasn't the most powerful car, but it was power to weight ratio. It was really good. So it was a light car with a little bit of power. I think it was 90 brake horse.
Yeah, not a brake horse.
No, not a brake horse.
Yeah. But for a small car, 1.6 engine is quite big, right? For like
yes.
a little car.
Yeah.
So it potentially your it can give you a bit of a can't it?
It was nice, mate. It was a nice first car, but we used to basically just rag it. 6,000 revs through every gear. It was like and just like going around town and like getting the back out. It's weird to be in this because like it feels like I should be sitting in that seat because in the UK, right-hand drive, driving on the left. So it's like like I'm doing it with my hand there. I'm actually trying not to hit that.
It's not a political thing, is it?
Yeah.
Driving on the left.
Oh, very good.
You have that. You feel a lot more of a sense of I'm driving this car, don't you? I've got this kind of control.
You're in it. You feel that you're engine braking. So like you knock it down to second gear from fourth, and you come into the corner.
I feel that makes sense with like your personality as well, because even when you're doing like the camera, no, not the kind of crazy stuff, but you like to kind of be involved and in it and kind of working it and. You're owning it, Yes. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I can imagine that's a similar. It's very dynamic.
I'll tell you one story. So I was ragging it, and like this guy comes past me, and it was like a Clio 1.2 or something, 1.1 Clio. It was a tiny little car. So I was like, trying to catch up with him. So the engine light comes on. At the time, I was a bit naive. I was like, just ignore it. Then the car just stops, and I've seized the engine. So basically, the pistons inside the engine, they're not moving up and down. Well, they're moving up and down, but there's no lubrication. The oil essentially lubricates those pistons, but it creates so much friction if there's no oil. So what essentially was happening, you're basically welding the piston to the metal because there's no oil in there. And so within like a couple of minutes, my engine had blown up. At the time, I was working at a store as a bike mechanic, but it was like a car and bike store. So a friend of mine who had a crash in his car had a, what you call an XR2i. It was 1.8 Z-Tech, 16 valve. Which is exactly the same lump engine as the Fiesta 1.6. So he was like, I'll give you your engine for £100. I said, all right. And he was like, I'll help you fit it.
내가 이제 너한테 10만 원 받을 테니까 엔진 줄 거지.
That's it.
어때?
그래. That was my mate Vincent Hickman. He was just such a legend, and he was like, yeah, I'll help you fit it. And so we spent the next 2 weeks. So we pulled the engine out, did all the wiring, popped the drive shafts off. Got the engine in, and it was like this amazing project where I was like literally getting to know the inside of a vehicle. It took us 2 weeks, and it was in the cold on my mum's driveway. My mum was livid. She was like, "When's that car gonna get off my driveway, Joe?" Yeah,
because she was oil a lot more everywhere. As well back
yeah, she was a proper Cockney back then. Not like she is now. Oh, Joe. No. So anyway, it was a beautiful project, and we finally get it all together. Like we pulled the drive shaft out, ripped the gator. There's oil going everywhere. So my mate's like, we'll zip tie a couple of carrier bags around there. Keep it. So it was a real bodge job. And we finally sit there, it's pouring rain, we're soaking wet, hands are like covered in like scrapes and muck and oil. And we sit there, put the key in, nothing happens. I was just like, maybe the battery's just gone dead because it's been sitting. And so we jump start it, first time, on. And it was the most amazing feeling of my life. At that age, 17, 18 years old, to do an engine transplant on my car, engine conversion.
That's open heart surgery for a car.
Yeah,
right.
Essentially.
I will never be able to, or even attempt to, or even consider attempting to replace an engine.
Well, not with an attitude like that, you won't.
와, 안녕하십니까? 예, 와, 예, 기사님 저 홍대 가주세요. 예, 아이고, 와우.
Ooh, this is very 편해. This is very sort of. Wow, we get the TV. You got all your dials.
This is amazing, mate. Get in, have a little go.
But this is the thing now. These cars are like. They're like space wagons. Back then, everything was very mechanical. Now, it's like cars basically drive themselves.
Like sitting in here, you wouldn't drive this car. You just kind of sit in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can feel like it's going to do everything for you. And I'm the same. Like, I love the idea of this kind of mechanical, industrial combination of, sort of metal and heat and that kind of. But at the same time, it's like it's comfort. Do you know what I mean?
Beautiful.
I would love to try to. Someday drive this car.
Earlier you were talking about your KA.
Yeah.
Ford boys. You were telling me the other day you went on a road trip.
So first of all, this is just a background of how little I knew about cars. Ford Ka, I used to call it. Didn't realise it was KA. which it probably is because it's too
I mean, I have no idea.
Vodka. Secondly, I had it before I had a 운전면허증, and it was in my parents' drive. Go downstairs in the morning. I was learning to drive, so I know how to reverse and stuff like that, but you can't take it onto the road, right? And I used to get breakfast cereal in a bowl and go and sit in the car, and I had the 5 things that I wanted to listen to on the radio programmed already, 5 channels. And I would sit in the car and pull the windows down and like drive it to the front of the drive, probably 5 meters, and then I would drive it back 5 meters, and then I would sit and have my cereal in it.
I love it.
A month after I passed my driving test, I was working in this restaurant, and my friend, a close friend of mine, Gwyn, and he said, listen, I'll get insured in your car and we'll drive to Italy. So my first actual like driving experience of like long journey was driving to Italy from Wales.
Gosh.
Yeah, and that's the beauty. Like, we drove to Dover, probably 3.5 hours, got a 2-hour ferry, woke up, we were in France.
Beautiful.
3 hours later, we're in Paris. Slept in the car for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
The chef in the restaurant used to say to me, Dan, you'll never get to even France in that car. He's a 9-year-old little Ford car, right? So my dad was like, listen, you should take it to the garage. I know it's drivable and everything, but it's not drivable for 3,000 miles or whatever you're going to do. Took it to the garage, proper Cardiff lad. No, Cardiff. He called me up a couple of hours later and I said, oh, everything fine? Like, we're going to be able to drive into... You'll be lucky to get to Dover in this thing, let alone Italy. Spent about £1,000 on it, and then 2 days later we drove it to Italy.
Amazing.
And probably the most drastic and crazy part of that trip, we were staying in Florence. We were sleeping in the car, in a car park overlooking the city. And my friends, 2 friends who were also travelling in Italy at the time, came and stayed with us. And we 4-man-upped it in the car for 2 nights with their stuff. They had luggage for a month.
Oh my.
And I had luggage for 2 weeks with my friend, and we slept in the car. We were so dirty. We were eating a Chinese food wine. It was I will never forget that experience.
1 man in a KA is like not even sleepable.
So you obviously got your old Mini, haven't you?
Does it come with the extremely attractive model?
I think it probably does, but at an inflated price.
Hey,
Whoa.
bruv, I'm well on getting a motorbike.
Can I get on the back with you?
No, you can't.
Oh, please don't sit.
Oh, 대박이네요.
There's a tradition for German cars. It's been sort of like the symbol of quality and the expectation of quality. And something I noticed today when I saw the Korean cars is that Korean cars are all about that. Especially like the Hyundai, like the Genesis that we saw today. Like it's so sleek. I reckon the technology in some of these cars is like better than in the German cars.
Right.
Even we saw the BMWs and we saw the Mercedes and things like that. But I've driven a Hyundai once and it was beautiful, and it was probably nothing on some of the cars we've seen today.
The perception of these cars back in the day, when we didn't even know what a Kia was, right, or Hyundai, and now they're like leading in car manufacturing, and they're freaking awesome, bro.
And it's kind of proved it to us just sitting in this car.
I'm trying not to be like proud of Korea right now, 'cause I'm British and I'm like, British cars and old school cars, but you can't help but like just be like, wow, Korea's absolutely smashing it with the stuff that they're making.
Absolutely.
It's really exciting.
Let's hope one day the Dan and Joel channel has one of these buttes that we can...
Yeah, I think they're going to give us one of these.
왠지 그럴 것 같아.
That'd be sick. Right, so shall we get you home?
Yeah, 광안리, please.
Okay.
사장님.
We have to walk. But you can piggyback me.
수고했어.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. That's a good chat.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Interesting, man.
고마워, bro.